Some of these clowns talk about it, but see, I lived it. When that cell door opens, the talking's over. Ain't no guns, ain't no drive-bys. Get your knife. Straight hand-to-hand combat. Peace, blessings, and salutations. Yurima Karama here again with another segment of Voices from Behind the Wall. So, in this segment, we're talking about the transition. And quite frankly, there's no blueprint for the transition from prison to back to free society. I will tell you this. I started a plan 5 years before I got out. Now this wasn't, here's the blueprint. The plan that I set up wasn't one I just thought about. It wasn't one I said, okay, I'm going to do. And I actually went over this. I wrote it down. I even sent the plan home. I typed it out. I refined it yearly. And I kept it within the bounds of what it was that I was actually going to do. So I had my plan. And more importantly, I had my goal, because understand that plans change. But the goal can stay the same unless you upgrade the goal. But the plan, things don't always work according to the plan, as we all know. So you can plan to go to work today, but the highway gets shut down. Now you're going to be late. There, you get a cold. Something happens where you have to rush a family member to the hospital. So, but the plan was to get to work. So I built a plan. And like I said, I started this plan 5 years prior to my release. And the plan changed like from the day I stepped out. I go to the airport, and when I stepped out, I had nothing. I had my gray sweatpants and gray sweat top and tennis shoes. And I had a little bag with me, and with my papers and some of my work that I've done. Most of it I had sent on prior. So I'm coming out. Plan has changed. Off the top, I'm at the airport and I'm really like discombobulated for real. So I'm flying into New York, and my partner, good friend of mine, he picks me up, goes and buys me some clothes, and we spend some time, we're talking, and I'm just like, I'm watching everything. Again, I've been gone 19 years, 2 months, so I'm just really watching. I'm an introvert anyway by nature, but I'm an extrovert on stage when I'm performing, but I'm an introvert by nature, so I'm watching. And I'm just seeing all the changes, and it's, it's, at this point, it's not even frightening. I'm just excited to be out. And so when you first get out, if you're, which most people are, they're going to be on some type of probation or supervised release. When you first get out, you have literally like 72 hours to make contact with your supervised release officer. So I fly into Ohio, and, I'm met by my family, and plans change. So when I get in, the first couple days, everything is love. You're embraced by family. They haven't seen you for a long time. And I go to see the supervised release officer. It's a black lady. And she calls me into her office, and, I'm excited because I've got my plan. I've got it laid out. I'm going to follow it to a T. She says, "How are you doing?" I said, "Man, I'm doing great. Home, I'm doing good. First couple days has been good." She says, "Well, I want you to know, don't get your expectations too high, Mr. Karama. You do know that, you could possibly go back to prison." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I just got out of prison. What are you talking about? I could possibly go back." She said, "Well, I just want you to know, a lot of times people come out and they have these high expectations, and, the expectations can't be met. They violate. and they go back. So I just want you to be privy to the fact that that's always a possibility. I say, I have no intentions of going back. So she says, yeah, but I understand that. But you need to know that you potentially could. I say, I don't even think in those terms. I'm not going back to prison. Do you know me and this lady sat here for 45 minutes with this back and forth exchange until I finally got fed up with it because she was draining my energy. And I'm like, you know what? For the sake of mental masturbation, because that's what this is, for the sake of mental masturbation, yeah, you're right. I could possibly go back to prison. As a matter of fact, miss, all 350 million Americans at some point in their life could end up in prison. It's a possibility. You're absolutely right. And at that point, the phone rang. And this is where I say I have that universal veil. When I made my spiritual transformation, that was real. I said spiritual, not religious, but spiritual. So she gets a call and, she's on the phone. She's like, oh, okay. And so she gets off and she's like, yeah, and, understand you can't travel outside the jurisdiction for 90 days. If you decide if any certain places in Ohio, you have to inform us if you're going to travel, and blase Skippy. And so I'm ready to leave now. So she says, but at this point, I'm thinking like, okay, I have her. I got 5 years supervised release. I have her for 5 years. This is going to be a disaster. So before I leave the office, she says, by the way, I got a call. She said, I might not be your supervised release officer. She says, we'll be giving you a call in the next couple of days to see. I think you're going to be transferred to another supervised release officer, but I have to go to a meeting. We're going to figure out what we're going to do. So I say, okay. So when I get home, I'm talking to my mother, and she says that, and I tell her, I say, I met the lady. I don't even go into what we've talked about. And she says, yeah, she came out to the house because prior to me getting out, the supervised release officer goes out to your house to see where you're going to be living, if the conditions are appropriate for you to live there. So my mom tells me, she says, yeah, she came out here, looked, immediately looked in the house and was like, are you sure you want him living here? Are you sure you can trust him living here? And my mother said, she was like, that's my son. What do you mean? Yeah, I can trust him living here. And she was like, okay, I'm just going to tell you, these felons, they come home and, they're not who you think they are. They switch up. If you have any problems with him, here's my card. If he sneezes the wrong way, you give me a call. And my mother looked at her and she was like, this is my son. I know my son. Now, I don't know other people you're talking about, but he came from my womb. I know my son. And so she was like, the lady was just like, well, I'm just letting you know, if you have any issues, give me a call. So when my mother's telling me this, I tell her about the back and forth that her and I had while I was at her office. And we kind of, got a chuckle out of that. 2 days later, I get a call. I got a new supervised release officer. Young white guy, middle-aged white guy. No problems, nothing. The plan. I knew that coming out, I needed to be able to get around for the things that I wanted to do. I was told that I would have a vehicle. That didn't happen. My point, the plan changed because my expectation was that this was going to be here. It wasn't. The goal didn't change though. So you have to, if the plan don't go right, you have to have a backup plan. which I did. Like I said, I started this 5 years prior to coming home. So I had things written down. I had them jotted. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I also knew that everything wouldn't go the way I expected it. But if I could just keep the goal out front, then I would be fine. So I didn't have a vehicle. So basically for like 2.5 months, I would go to the library every day. And, you know, the universe, man, the universe is beautiful. Like I said, it's that veil, that spiritual veil that covers me. I would go to the library every day. And what that gave me an opportunity to do was to basically learn the computer, learn websites, learn, all the stuff that I wasn't privy to. At this point, the only thing I knew how to do on a computer was email, literally. They had just started that in the system like 6 months prior before I got out. So literally all I knew how to do was do an email. And so, I went there. I ended up getting a job right next to the library at the dollar store. And, quite frankly, things weren't always the best with family. And so I'm a very independent spirit. So I knew that, eventually it was time for me to go. And you always get you sometimes start second guessing. Should I have taken the halfway house? Should I have went to Minneapolis instead of Ohio? And, so all of these things were going through my mind because there were a couple days there where I was in a very bad place. But I kept the goal going. Also, I just, I had some friends who really believed in me, who believed in my art. So it was almost like from day one, I was performing. I was kicking in doors around the city. They hooked me up with a videographer on an intern type basis to follow me around, shoot videos of my performances. So every day when he got off work, he would come get me. He was really into videography at that time and really loved my work. So I just started every open mic that I could find. I went and started kicking in doors and performing. And, eventually the time came where it was just like, the family situation, it was becoming too much. And I reached out to my friend, to my partner in New York, and I was just like, hey, I'm basically considering I need a vehicle, and I'm at a point where I'll sleep in my vehicle, man. But I need a vehicle. I need to be able to get around because opportunities, I can't get to them. And he was like, I got you. So next segment of Voices from Behind the Wall, I will continue taking you through the transitional phase and how the universe has kept me protected through this journey, through my sojourn. So until that time, my name is Yurima Karama. Peace, blessings, one.
Testament, I'm on one, give you the treatment, represent to a further extent. It's the first volume of my testament. My testament. My testament.